The students of California State University were buzzing with excitement. The auditorium, packed to its brim, had an electrifying atmosphere. Every seat was taken, and those who couldn't find one were standing by the walls, eager to catch a glimpse of the man they admired so much, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. As the lights dimmed and the spotlight focused on the stage, the booming voice of the announcer echoed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson." The crowd erupted in cheers as Dwayne walked onto the stage, his towering frame and confident smile commanding the audience's attention. Dressed in his signature casual style, black t-shirt, jeans, and his unmistakable charisma, he waved to the students before taking the mic. "Wow, this energy is insane. You guys are amazing," he said, his deep voice resonating through the hall. The audience roared in response. Dwayne looked around, then leaned slightly forward. "All right, let's get real. Today, I'm not here as The Rock. I'm here as Dwayne, the guy who failed, struggled, fell, but never stopped fighting. And today, I want to share my journey with you. Because trust me, if I can make it, so can you." The auditorium fell silent. Every student, from the front row to the last, hung onto his words. They were about to hear the untold struggles of the man who inspired millions. Dwayne took a deep breath and paced across the stage. He glanced at the students and asked, "How many of you have ever felt like you're failing? Like life is just knocking you down?" A few hands went up hesitantly. Dwayne chuckled. "Come on, be honest. I know that feeling way too well." He continued, "Let me take you back to when I was 14. My family didn't have much. We were living in Hawaii, struggling to pay rent. And one day, we came home to find an eviction notice on our door. Just like that, we were homeless." Gasps echoed across the hall. I watched my mom break down in tears, and I felt helpless. I wanted to do something, anything to change our situation. But at that moment, I was just a kid with no plan, no money, and a heart full of fear. Dwayne paused, looking at the audience. That fear, that feeling of being powerless, it's real. But let me tell you something. It's not permanent. Because when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way left to go, up. The students sat in silence, absorbing his words. They had never seen The Rock like this before, vulnerable, raw, real. "But my struggles didn't end there," he added. "In fact, they were just beginning. By the time I was in high school, I had only one dream, to become a professional football player," Dwayne said. "I worked my ass off, and it paid off. I got a scholarship to the University of Miami, one of the best football programs in the country. Life was finally looking up." The audience cheered, but Dwayne raised a hand to silence them. "Hold on. It's not a happy ending yet." He sighed. "I was doing great. I was on track to go pro. And then boom, an injury. A damn injury took everything away from me." The auditorium was dead silent. I was devastated. Imagine working your whole life for one dream, only to watch it slip through your fingers. Just like that, my football career was over before it even began. Dwayne shook his head. I had no backup plan, no money, no idea what to do next. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly lost. He looked out at the students. "But here's where life tests you. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how you respond." Dwayne took a deep breath and continued. "After I lost football, I went into depression. I had just $7 in my pocket. Yeah, you heard that right. $7 freaking. The crowd murmured in shock. I was living in a tiny apartment, sleeping on a mattress I found on the street. I had no job, no purpose. And worst of all, I felt like a failure." He paused for a moment. "Depression is real, guys. Feeling like you're worthless? That's real. But do you know what's also real? The ability to fight back." He clenched his fist. "One day, I looked in the mirror and said, this is not how my story ends. I had no idea how I was going to turn my life around, but I made a promise to myself. I was going to work my ass off and find a way." The students nodded, their eyes fixed on him. "That's when I found wrestling," he said with a small smile. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Wrestling wasn't my first love. But I needed something, so I trained day and night. I fought in tiny, sweaty gyms in front of a dozen people. I got booed. I got rejected. But I didn't quit. He pointed at the students. That's lesson number 1. Success doesn't come easy. You will struggle. You will fail. But if you quit, you'll never know how great you could have been. The students erupted in applause. I kept pushing, and finally WWE gave me a shot. But guess what? My first character, Rocky Maivia, was a complete flop. People hated me. They chanted "Rocky sucks" every time I entered the ring. Laughter rippled through the crowd. But instead of running, I evolved. I changed. And I became The Rock. He smirked. And that's when everything changed. Dwayne took a step forward, his voice filled with conviction. When I embraced who I truly was, everything changed. I stopped trying to be what people wanted me to be, and I became The Rock. The students cheered at the mention of his legendary persona. I brought the energy, the attitude, and most importantly, the mindset of a champion. I worked harder than ever, training relentlessly and learning how to entertain, not just wrestle. And soon, the same people who once booed me, they were cheering my name. He smirked. That's lesson number 2, reinvention is key. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to change. Adapt. Grow. Find your true self and own it. The students nodded in agreement, some even taking notes. With WWE, I traveled the world, won championships, and became one of the biggest names in wrestling. But deep inside, I knew there was more I could do. He paused for dramatic effect. That's when I made the riskiest decision of my life. I left wrestling to chase a new dream, Hollywood. Dwayne chuckled. Now, you'd think with all my success in wrestling, Hollywood would welcome me with open arms, right? Wrong. The students leaned in. I was told I was too big, too muscular, too different. Casting agents didn't know where I fit. I was stuck in the middle, too famous for small roles, not famous enough for big ones. He sighed. I'll never forget one meeting where a big-time director told me, "You should lose weight, stop working out so much, and change your look if you want to make it in Hollywood." The crowd booed at the absurdity. That moment right there, that's where most people give up. But I had already failed once. I had already lost everything before. And I wasn't about to let someone else decide my destiny. He raised a finger. Lesson number 3. Never let anyone tell you who you should be. Define yourself. Create your own path. A round of applause echoed through the auditorium. So what did I do? I doubled down. I stayed true to myself. I refused to shrink down or fit someone else's mold. Instead, I created my own brand. Dwayne smiled. Then I got my first big opportunity, the Scorpion King. It wasn't perfect, but it was my foot in the door. I took it, ran with it, and proved that I belonged in Hollywood. Asterisk. He pointed at the audience. Opportunities will come, but you have to be ready for them. You have to put in the work before the moment arrives. That's how you succeed. From there, he climbed higher. Fast forward a few years, and I became one of the highest paid actors in the world. Movies like Fast and Furious, Jumanji, Moana, they weren't just movies. They were proof that all my failures, all my struggles, led me to where I was meant to be. The students erupted in cheers. Dwayne looked around the hall, his expression serious. You see, success isn't just about money, fame, or followers. It's about impact. It's about how many lives you can change. He smiled. That's why I do what I do. That's why I stand here today. Because I know what it feels like to be lost, broke, and hopeless. And if my story can help just one of you keep going, then it's all worth it. The students clapped, some even wiping their eyes. Lesson number 4. Success means nothing if you don't use it to lift others up. Dwayne looked directly into the audience. I know some of you are struggling right now. I know some of you feel like giving up. But listen to me. Do not quit. His voice grew stronger. Your struggles today are shaping the person you're meant to become. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to start over. because every setback is just a setup for a bigger comeback. He walked across the stage, making eye contact with as many students as possible. You have everything you need within you, but the question is, are you willing to fight for your dreams? The students shouted, "Yes!" Then go out there, work your ass off, stay true to yourself, and remember, when life knocks you down, get back up. The crowd erupted in a standing ovation. Dwayne smiled, taking it all in. "Thank you, guys. Now go make your dreams happen." The cheers echoed long after he left the stage. His words, his journey, his fire, it had ignited something in every single student that night. And perhaps, somewhere in that audience, the next Dwayne Johnson had just been inspired to rise.